So, welcome to the Superhero Finder podcast. As always, I'm Matt Wilson, and I am scouring the cosmos looking for inspirational people, really cool stories, and just things for you as a listener or a watcher to take away. Or maybe it's something you want to help somebody else with. Whatever you take away today, thank you for joining us. And I'm so glad to be sat with, in person, on the first in-person episode of the Superhero Finder, Miranda Arieh. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great. All the better for seeing you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Don't you make me blush? I'll go the same colour as the
cosmos.
In the cosmos. So, Miranda, I'm so thankful to have you here in this wonderful place. We are in Unity Through Music in Leeds, and it's a fantastic venue. So I'm so thankful we're able to do this. I would love for you to introduce yourself to anyone that isn't aware of who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Miranda Arieh, and primarily I'm many things, but primarily I'm a mental health activist, motivational coach, public speaker, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, like huge passion for mental health in particular, you know, and raising awareness and trying to break down stigma and help as many people who are suffering in this life as possible.
That's awesome. And really that's what a superhero does. And that links really nicely into the fact that people that do things like that, do you ever feel like a superhero or do you feel like the opposite?
Oh, God. Well, do you know what? My group work programme that I designed for the NHS, so I'm placed in the NHS, I said I did many things, and
yes.
I do many different things. So I've got many different hats, and I've designed through the NHS in lockdown, I've designed an 8-week, 20-hour group work programme for patients with mental health difficulties, which is now rolling out through the NHS, which is beautiful. Brilliant. And it's actually called the Heroes Group Work Programme.
Yes!
Yeah, and Heroes stands for Healing, Education and Recovery of Emotional Strength. And it also stands for the kind of people that come on the programme, because for me, they're all heroes. People who show up to heal themselves in this world and make their own lives better. It's only ever going to have a ripple effect and make other people's lives around them better. The more love we're able to harness within the relationship with ourselves, the more we're able to shine that out. You know, so yeah, heroes all round. Love the word hero. Yeah,
it's a great word, isn't it? And I think, you know, what I was kind of getting at there is you don't have to realise the impact that you have on people to 100%. Have the impact that you have on 100%.
People. And a hero is not someone who is doing big grand things in the world, even starting big movements or you know, creating group work programs or doing stuff on stage. A hero can be as much as somebody who makes eye contact with a woman who looks sad working at the checkout and says, "Hi, how is your day? When does your shift end?" Someone who connects, someone who gives love, somebody who is able to build a beautiful community around them and give love to the people who might be being ignored in this life or maybe need a little bit more love. And a hero to me is anyone who takes even 10 seconds to do that. So we don't have to do a big grand gesture to be a hero in my eyes, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I've certainly had times where somebody has asked me how I am.
Oh yeah.
Genuinely. And you've come away thinking, I never expected that. It's actually there and then impacted you. It's not I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
It's someone that you can tell is genuinely interested.
Yeah, absolutely, You know, someone who really notices when someone's not doing so well. Someone who's actually able to spot that and go, I'm going to check in with this person, they're seeming more quiet today, or, you know, that person is struggling with their bags, or you know, it's keeping an eye out for those people around us, recognising, you know, that we are one, and trying to, you know, breed connection over disconnection everywhere we go. That's a hero. But we're unable to do that if we're in a very difficult place emotionally, I find. You know, we tend to close ourselves off, don't we? So healing being number one priority in all our lives makes us a hero.
It does. The strength to look at yourself and to shine that spotlight on it's important to look after me.
Oh yeah.
I know from personal experience has been super tough, especially when you wake up and love to help other people. It just feels like, and actually personally it felt like growing up, the people that did consider themselves and the people that felt confident and the people that felt success weren't great people. That's the way that it felt when I was growing up. So then, you know, growing up and becoming someone that likes doing things for people, was like, well, if I start looking after myself, does that make me selfish, self-absorbed? Where does the line become?
Absolutely, because I guess that I talk a lot about, especially within the Heroes Group Work Programme, about self-compassionate practice and about the idea that, building our relationship with ourselves, like we said before, is the most important relationship we're ever going to have in our lives. And a lot of people go, well, isn't that just selfish? That's so arrogant. That's so selfish. And it's the opposite. It's completely the opposite. If we're able to if we build our relationship with ourselves to the point where we feel good in ourselves, we believe in ourselves, we have a loving, kind relationship with ourselves, we're forgiving, well, damn right, that's going to rub off on every single person that we come into contact with in our lives. We've all experienced it when we're not feeling great and we're feeling bad about ourselves, we can't forgive ourselves and we're feeling terrible in that state.
Yeah.
We snap at people. We're more irritable with people. We might have road rage. We don't spread that connection. Yeah. So it's like, if for us to work on having a harmonious time within, it does shine out. It does spread. So to support people in feeling good, it's the greatest form of activism we can have.
Of course.
Support other people in feeling good.
So then what we're saying is, there's ultimately so much power in being selfish. Because you're still being selfish, but we're just using the word wrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because there's more than one type of selfishness. There is a selfish where it's all for self-gain.
Oh, yeah.
And the side effect of that is people feeling inadequate, or you're beating someone, or you're just wanting to feel higher. But there's also the selfish that is thinking about self.
Absolutely. And part of thinking about self, and I like to talk about self with a capital S, like connection to self, the truth of who we all are. In recognition that the pain is not us, in recognition that the conditioning we've been through is not us, and the times that we are triggered, that's not us in our true self. So I talk about this self with a capital S, that's the truth of who we all are. And when we start to want to reconnect with the self, the truth of who we all are, we recognize that part of that process of loving ourselves better is giving love to others. And it is being of service to others. And I don't believe healing can be complete without supporting the healing of others. And this is why I love group work so much. I love group work because it gives that opportunity for people to support each other's healing. Yeah. And if we see that to give and to receive a one in truth, it's like this, it's an infinity. Absolutely. To give and to receive a one in truth, we recognize that the more we're able to give love to others, the more we're going to thrive. But not from a place of fear. Because if we abandon our own needs to meet the needs of others, this causes resentment. This causes disruption of the love to self. That's a form trauma response. People pleasing is a trauma response if it comes from a place of fear. But if we do it from a place of love, that amplifies our own healing, supporting the healing of others.
It's like, I love cars and I love analogies. So it's like a self-charging car not receiving the charge. So it's output, caring for people, and then it's that ultimate burnout when you realise your battery's dead.
100%.
Or you're trying to pour from an empty cup, because that's the most common one, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. And that, that doesn't happen from the place of just giving love in a way that's giving us joy, because it as well in the field, it's like I've run a group in a surgery in Hare Hills today. I just felt fired up after it, giving so much love to those people in that room. I felt so fired up afterwards. It was energizing. It was plugging myself in. Yes. Whereas, if it was coming from a place of, I've got to do this and I don't really want to, where I've not been assertive and I've not outlined my own boundaries, that's what drains us. When we abandon the self, when we abandon parts of us that are saying no and we say yes, it's very damaging for us. Yeah. It's a trauma response. We have to reconnect with the parts of us that we throw under the bus and and don't listen to. And when we do that, when we start embodying more of the truth of who we are, we're able to be of service to the world in a huge way. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's almost like then caring and coming from a really healthy place requires less effort. So you're using less battery. So if we go back to that battery analogy, it's using less so you can do it for longer. Yeah. And it's allowing it, almost recharges you. Yeah. I can go out and do, well-being event at college. I can come out and do this. Yeah. And I won't be tired, I'll be fired up. Like you say, when you leave, you're fired up, you're ready to do loads more.
Yeah, being loving's high vibe.
Yeah.
Being loving is so high vibe, and it's so much more high vibe than holding a grievance. The grievance energy, just to clarify, if anyone's not sure of what a grievance means.
Yeah.
Grievance is like, I don't know, a grudge, holding something against someone else or holding something against the present moment. I will be radical enough to say that I believe that all suffering, every single form of suffering that we can encounter in this life, comes from the grievance energy, where we hold a grievance with another person. I can't believe they did that. They made me feel this term. They made me feel, which isn't really possible. You know, they did this, or the grievance of, I did this. Why did I do that? I'm such an idiot. They must think this of me, or a grievance with the present moment the way it is. I can't believe this is happening in my life. I've got a grievance with this situation, this circumstance, this relationship. I can't accept the present moment the way it is. That's a grievance. So if all suffering comes from grievance energy, which I believe not everyone might believe that, I'd really encourage anyone to recognise next time they're triggered, whether it is coming from that grievance energy. Can we not accept the present moment the way it is? So really the key to all happiness must be forgiveness, must be, you know, the ability to let the past go, the ability to come to the present moment and allow and accept. And it's very challenging for us human beings to do, because when we've been through conditioning that's caused us suffering, we have a nervous system that's wired to protect us and defend and put up barriers, and that person did that, I need to stay away. It's like a shield that we put up. Yeah. But that grievance energy, that's what drains us. Yeah. That's what drains us. That's what causes burnout. The loving energy can't. It sustains us, you know. But sometimes in those moments when we're triggered, it feels like the opposite of what we want to do. We're not in our true self, so we don't embody love in those moments sometimes. So this is why I love the turn of phrase, which is, people who need the most love may ask for it in the most unloving of ways. So the people that we see that become very, very angry, or, you know, they might have the road rage, or the, you know, whatever, aggressive. It's only ever a call for love. It can only ever be a call for love and help. And when we reframe, you know, when I started to recognise that and reframe that, totally changed my life, upside down. And then I started to recognise that when I'm like that, when I'm in an angry state, where am I not opening to receive love? What's going on for you? And I can bring self-compassion through, rather than self-judgment and beration and vilification of the self. I go, okay, what's going down there? So this idea that we can only be in one of two expressions, either an expression of love and help, true self, or a call for love and help, really simplified things for me, you know?
That's really interesting. And there was one thing I was going to say about when you talk about the grievance energy as well, and the correlation with the three examples that you gave, with the weight and the core of the issue, is the fact that something is happening to you that you cannot control. Yeah. It's somebody else, it's a situation, it's something. And of course you're not going to be able to feel in control if you're making yourself feel not in control. Yeah. So is it then turning that and saying, what can I control, what can't I control? I go into a lot of, you know, I go and say a lot of young people doing my superhero talk, and one of the things I say is, it's the idea of the circle of control. Write down some things on a piece of paper, you know, in the middle of the piece of paper, the things that bother you, circle around it, like move the stuff out that you can't control. Can we control the weather? Can we control what somebody else does or says? Yes. No. Can we control how we receive it? Can we control how much we are in front of it? Can we turn the TV over? Can we scroll social media, realise it's making us feel a certain way, and put your phone down and go and do something else? Yeah. It's that awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that so much, because sort of, especially in line with the point around forgiveness and release of the past. Yeah. Because when we start to look at forgiveness, we have to recognise that we cannot change the past, as it is impossible. Okay, it's not possible for us to change the past. So when we focus on, could have been different, that should have been different, they shouldn't have done that. When we focus on that, wanting to change the past, we're guaranteed to be in suffering, hellish suffering. We're guaranteed to be in that. But when we look at what we can control, which is I can choose to change my mind about it in this present moment. I can choose to control, like you're saying there.
Yeah.
I can choose to reframe and come to the now and do something about these feelings that are rising in me.
Yeah.
That's when we start to enter a state of expansion and healing.
Yeah.
And I want to make it very clear to anyone listening when we talk about the word forgiveness, because forgiveness is a very triggering word for so many people.
Yeah.
It used to be a very
absolutely.
triggering word for me, having gone through a lot of abuse when I was younger.
Yeah.
And it can be so challenging for people to start to forgive because of the barrier that they hear with that word. I want to explain that forgiveness is never, ever, ever anything to do with condoning, justifying, or excusing anybody's behaviour towards us or harm we may have encountered at the hands of others. But there's nothing to do with excusing, condoning, justifying that goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to come to the moment and accept the way things are in the present.
Yeah.
And choosing to heal through that. And it's the ability to release that past, not allow it to affect us anymore.
Yes.
Unforgiveness, there's a beautiful turn of phrase, which is unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because that grievance energy is so toxic for us. So when we forgive, it's an act of self-compassion. Yeah. When we choose to go, okay, I choose to not let that have power over me anymore. I choose to not carry that with me. Trauma is not what's happened to us.
Yeah.
Trauma is not the event that happened to us. Trauma is what we made it mean for us.
Yeah.
And trauma is what we carry forward with us.
Yeah.
So we have to learn where to drop that off. Okay? Because it's only trauma if we go forward with the belief that we're not lovable the way we are because we weren't loved properly. The act of not being loved properly in the first place, that's not the trauma.
No.
It's about the beliefs that we create about ourselves at that point that we carry forward with us. Yeah. And where do we drop that off? Where do we recognise that rear its head? And where do we teach ourselves a new way of being? That is forgiveness. That's true forgiveness.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And that resonates so much with a lot of the things that I've kind of experienced. I just wanted to go back to just a couple of words that you were talking about there. And one of the, I've worked with various coaches in the past, and one of the biggest changes for me, and I always watch myself when I start talking, especially if I feel emotive or I feel negative, is look out for the words should and need. Because need's the other one. I need to do this. I need to do this.
Yeah.
And how does that sentence sound with can and want? So how can we switch them round to what can I do rather than what should I do? Because that for me is an external expectation that you've either been conditioned to believe or something that you see is the normal. But there's obviously a barrier against it because you haven't done it.
Absolutely. I love that. It's just this real power of language that you're bringing through there as well. These little shifters that we can make with the words that we use. Yeah. Words carry a lot of power.
Of course they do.
As do thoughts that we have, because a belief is just a thought we keep thinking.
Yeah.
So if we want to change our beliefs, we have to choose new thoughts and we have to choose new words. So I love that, like changing it to can. Should is terrible. It's really damaging, isn't it? Should, I can. I want instead of need. I love that as well because it goes back to this idea of like non-attachment, which is from the Buddhist faith, from many different faith spheres, But this idea, do I need or can I be happy in the present moment? I would like, I want is very different. And another little language shifter that I really love, which is in the similar vein, is the idea of never saying, you made me feel. That made me feel.
Yeah.
This situation is making me feel. Mm-hmm. When we start to relinquish that and we start to choose to use turns of phrase, which are very different, and we go, okay, this situation's happened, and I'm starting to feel very sad. Or when you said that, I noticed within me feelings coming up of fear of abandonment. Mm-hmm. We're owning the feeling and we're not giving the power away. when we say you make me feel, that person makes me feel, we're living in a victim mentality. We're living in a state of powerlessness energy, which is never going to get us what we want in this life.
No.
Forever. It's like being a piece of paper blowing in the wind. Okay, well, that person can blow me this way and I can be... Whereas when we stand in a powered place, like, oh, I've noticed that triggered me. I noticed that triggered me. How can I work with this feeling? What we want to do in reality to heal is take the other person or people almost completely out of it and turn inwards and go, okay, what's this showing up in me that's unhealed? And the way that I always explain it to people, the idea of taking responsibility and ownership for our own feelings and why it's so powerful, is I give an example of there's two people. So one with really, really high self-worth, really buckets of self-worth, feels really good about themselves, feel good in their relationship with themselves. One with really, really low self-worth, feel terrible about themselves, really had difficult conditioning, etc., and they're really unhealed. Someone comes along, they scream in the face of the person with really low self-worth. You're terrible, you're never going to amount to anything, you're awful at your job, you're a loser in this life. And that person runs away. Oh my God, I can't believe they said that. They go around bitching. Oh my God, this person said this to me. I can't believe it. I don't know if I can go to it. This was so awful. And then that exact same person goes up to the other person with high self-worth. You're terrible, says exactly the same things. You're never going to amount to anything in your life. You're a loser, etc., etc. And the person with high self-worth might just go, are you all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's making who feel what?
Yeah.
Or is what we see in the external world only ever a reflection of the internal state? What needs changing? Does that person need changing? Or do we need to choose to change our minds? And A Course in Miracles has a beautiful saying, which is, seek not to change the world, but seek to change your mind about the world.
Yes.
Projection makes perception. The external world is only ever a reflection of our internal state. And it's very empowering when we come to a place of recognizing that no matter how triggered we are by what's going on in the external world, who's doing what, what's happening with our situation, etc., we only ever really need to change our own mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just brought up something, and I can't remember who said it, but there's an idea of there's two things. So what I took from that, and what's really nice, is it's almost taking that emotive sentence, you make me feel, and going, actually, what are the physical processes that have happened? I heard this. So taking the person out, I heard this. How does this make me feel? And exploring that, because the example that I wanted to go into, and I can't for the life remember who it is, and I explain this all the time, is the idea of, okay, so there was a situation, so that person berated you and said you're worthless, etc. Okay. Take that visual memory, think about it, replay it. Now imagine it's the episode of The Simpsons. That character's now yellow, he's now looking like Homer Simpson. All these things are all multicoloured. Say it again. You'll run it through. Now he's a hippo. Just because you realise that does that still sound as bad when you take the person out of it? Or does it just sound like a set of words?
Absolutely, yeah. And if you don't believe that about yourself in the first place, it's not really going to hit you as much. So we have our own personal worlds in our heads.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as well, there is a shared reality on some plane, in some dimension, cosmos. But the world we perceive is only up here. My world is only up here. Someone comes along and says something to me, the way I perceive it, that's my world, that's my reality, that's what I step forward with belief of. And when we realise that, well, what a beautifully empowering place to be. What a game changer.
Yeah, it's almost like, nowadays with social media and filters and this idea we can create what we want. What filter are you going to have over your eyes today?
Absolutely.
What glasses are you looking through when you see life?
Absolutely beautiful.
What you're hearing, and real life example is like my dog. I love him to death, right?
Aww.
But it can be a little bit of a pain sometimes. But he's been the same way for the last 6 years.
It's just a call for help. He just wants a snack.
It's true. He always wants to eat. But he's been the same way for the last 6 years since I've had him, since I rescued him. So most mornings, the things he does I don't even see. But some of those mornings where I wake up feeling a little bit irritated, or I wake up late, I find myself getting really agitated and shouting at him.
Yeah.
And once I sit down and I think about it, I go, he is literally doing the same thing he's done for the last 1,800 days. But today, why am I shouting at him? And then I'll just give him a cuddle. And I'll just give him extra love just to try and say, look. And obviously, whether he understands it and to what level, it doesn't matter. But it's always feels good to recognise that and go, okay, why, what is it I need? What is it I need to be able to...
So beautiful, yeah, because it's like not that day, and it's gorgeous that you're doing that practice, because it's like that day is not like, what do I need to change about this dog? It's like, what is there something in me that's different today? Do I need extra care and attention and love today? I mean, dogs are very forgiving, aren't they? Be more dog. In essence, summing up the whole talk. Be more dog.
Embrace your inner canine.
Exactly. Yeah, join the pack as such. Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful that that recognition there that, when we come to a place where we realise we've got the choice to change our mind, and it doesn't always feel like it. I want to acknowledge for everyone listening, it doesn't always feel like it. I mean, I've done so much work on myself at this stage. I literally do it for a living, and I still get triggered. I don't want to deceive anybody. I don't want to lie to anyone and oh my God, people talk, some of my favourite spiritual teachers, they'll never talk about when they get triggered still, and you just think, oh my God, they must be healed. They're living. No. Healing's a process. It's a recovery.
Yeah.
Recovery is a journey. It's not an end point where you suddenly fix, that's it, I've got complete inner peace. Boom, done. Yeah. And we wait for that point. Not healthy. It's a journey. It's a process. It's a lot of ups and downs. Yeah. And it takes a hell of a lot of self-forgiveness.
It does, and it's all part of, for me, it's all part of recognising the journey and the steps of the journey. Now, I'm the first one to admit, for a long, long time, it was, I'm impatient, I need that now. And weeks would fly by, and you think...
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But weeks fly by, and all of a sudden you go, well, where's those 2 weeks gone? Whereas as soon as you be a little bit kinder and a little bit more realistic and go, so I noticed I was annoyed with the dog this morning. Actually, I feel good about that. This is part of the process. This is part of me understanding myself. This is part... And actually see... how powerful that is.
So powerful. And that word you brought through there, this notice, this idea of noticing, this awareness of the self is everything. Yeah. It's everything. If we want to change, we have to be aware of what we're dealing with first. In order to change it, we have to know what we're dealing with. So this idea of becoming very present and aware with what's firing off in us, this process of turning inwards, okay, I notice that I'm feeling a bit like this. What do I need adjusting in me? Taking everyone else and everything else out of it, the triggering situation, taking that moment, however hard it is. I'm aware it's very hard sometimes to not point the finger and that's happening. How can I not be scared? To take everything out and turn inwards and notice, okay, this is firing off for me. Where does it sit in my body? How can I love myself through this in this moment? This noticing is just everything because that is presence. That's shining the light of consciousness on the present moment, what is actually firing off, which is only ever in here. Yes, someone might be... I'm not saying that no one's ever sometimes attacking us or whatever. Yes, there's stuff going on. But our reaction... When we do turn inwards and notice, we take action. We might leave that relationship, for example. I'm not saying, oh, we just accept everything. That's not what presence says. Well, oh, we just accept everything that's going on. That person's shouting at us, whatever. It's not about that. It's about turning inwards, noticing. And then we say goodbye to things that are no longer serving us. We still take action. Yeah. But this idea of noticing, this idea of Eckhart Tolle, who's one of my favourite ever spiritual teachers.
I thought you might mention him. Yeah.
I absolutely loved Eckhart Tolle's work. He's absolutely phenomenal. He wrote a book called The Power of Now, and he calls it becoming a witness of, becoming the watcher of. Okay. And so even if the pain is coming up in us, okay, what's firing off in me right now? Let me watch this. And then we create this split. Who's doing the watching? And who's being watched? Yeah. Is the pain really me if it can be watched? Who's this? The true self. And this is what we want to strengthen, the higher self. Yeah. The part of us that's always at peace. And it's hard for people to recognise that sometimes when they're in pain. But within us all, at every single moment in our lives, whether we're in trigger, whether we're crying, whether we're screaming, whether we're in pain, suffering, anger, depression, whatever it is, there is a part of us, the true self, that's always at peace, consistently. And it's only ever clouds that surround that. And it's about coming into contact with this and recognising that's always there for us to access, for everybody. And it only comes by this noticing, this watching.
Yeah. Yeah, he also calls it, if I remember rightly, the idea of mindlessness.
Oh, beautiful.
And he says that the mind is a tool that you can choose to put down. And it is that idea of that third person view on the situation, because all of a sudden you take it out of there, you're a fly on the wall to the situation, therefore you notice the whole thing, you notice everything that's going on, don't you? From a place of, well, I'm a watcher, so I'm calm. So how can I see this?
Yes.
And what do I then see? So it's almost akin to when you think of, well, if a friend was in this situation, what would you say to them?
Yeah.
So you can be a lot kinder to that person that's going through it, but then it's making the link to go, actually, that is me. I do understand a bit more about how I feel. So actually, how am I going to choose to move forward?
Yeah.
And that empowering feeling of, actually, I might not like it, but I'm going to have to make a difficult choice here. But I know it's worth it because I felt it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like part of self-compassionate practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talking to yourself the way you would do a friend that you deeply love and care about.
Yeah.
You know, being able to, treat that relationship with yourself with great love and tenderness and kindness, because we're just so cruel to ourselves sometimes. I mean, when I first started self-compassionate practice, found it excruciating. It actually started making me feel physically sick, because I was so used to hating myself so much throughout my whole life. Didn't even want to be here anymore at several stages in my life. I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act because I was harming myself so badly. That was at the age of 14. I went through such a long period.
Wow.
So much pain, so much suffering, living my life in suffering for the majority of my life. This is not how I've always presented. This is a result of a lot of determination to heal on my part, because the suffering got too much, quite frankly. The suffering got too much. It was either do something about it or continue to live in that state or just give up on life completely. Thankfully, I chose the road of doing the work on myself. But I would like to tell anyone listening, if they think, God, that's a lot of hard work there, there's just so much to look at. It's not hard work, it's a relief. It's a relief. Doing the deeper work on yourself and healing is not hard work, it's a relief. And when I first started that self-compassionate practice, I'm going to try and talk to myself. I went to like a workshop with Mind, Leeds Mind, a self-compassion workshop, and I tried to take it into my own practice. And I remember exactly where I was sat, and I remember exactly the moment when I started I was in suffering, I was beating myself up about something, a regret. That's my pain body, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, is regrets and beating myself up. Oh, you should have, why? All this real horrible hatred to myself, and I remember first trying to implement self-compassionate practice, and I was sat there trying to love myself fully. I started feeling physically sick. It was repulsive to me. Honestly, it was that extreme, the reaction to me. Now, it's habitual.
Right, yeah.
And I come from a place of a lot of emotional suffering. So I just want to reaffirm to anyone listening that it takes practice. Don't expect, of course one time can have a big impact, but we don't pick up a weight and overnight just expect a bicep. We don't pick it up once. No. It's called self-compassionate practice because it's a practice.
So true.
We have to keep coming back to it, and it's hard sometimes when you're not used to being that way with yourself. Yeah. And I just want to call on that quote on the wall that's over here in this studio. Yeah. It's a Tupac quote. If you want something you've never had, then you've got to do something you've never done. If you want inner peace and you're in a place where you're not finding much inner peace in your life, you have to do something you've not done. Yeah. Do something new. Break the cycle. Yeah. Create some change. It might not always feel comfortable. In fact, I can guarantee you it probably won't. But it's so worth it. Yeah. It's so worth it.
Well, I can see from what you're saying and your experience, you can just tell with the energy. And I know because I can feel how it's helped me, and I'm only a fraction of the place I want to be. So I'm just still on that journey, and it's incredible, isn't it? I wonder what what was your driving force behind it? Now you've kind of spoken there's this air of that you were just so driven to do it anyway, but were there people that were kind of inspiring to you to help you do that, or kind of tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. Like the spiritual teachers that I discovered, know, recommendations, like my ex Tom, who's still a close friend of mine, introduced me to the book The Power of Now, and I was on the coach to Bristol. One day I was going to do a gig down there, and I was like, oh God, I'm bored. I'm going to download Audible. He told me to listen to this book called The Power of Now. Totally changed my life. Transformed it upside down. You know, I'd already started doing a bit of healing. I'd started working a bit with mind, and and then other spiritual teachers that I found along the way. Have you heard of Gabby Bernstein?
I haven't.
Oh, just incredible. There's just too many. Deepak Chopra,
Deepak
so many
Chopra.
different.
I
just love Deepak. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, fantastic book. Really short book as well, which is good for us ADHDers. It's really, really great short little brilliant book. And I guess that this turn of phrase, self-made. I'm self-made. Yes, we want to celebrate ourselves as much as possible. The amount of work that we've put in, but obviously there's people along that way that come, and they're the mortar to the bricks, and they help us. And I've been very fortunate to be able to have many loving people in my life.
Yes.
But that's through healing as well. Because again, if we have an internal state that's shot to shreds, and we feel like crap about ourselves, and we feel I'm not worthy of love, if we have a belief, a core belief that we are walking around with in the world, I am not worthy of love, what are we going to choose as a friend? What are we going to choose as a partner? We're going to choose a reflection of how we want to value ourselves. Not in all cases, obviously there's exceptions to the rule. But we have to recognise that the place that we make a choice from comes from the belief we hold about ourselves, how we see ourselves. If we work on the way we see ourselves, the choices of people in our lives are going to be very, very different.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and it happens quite a lot of the time, especially like when you work, I mean, you do lots of client work as well, it's like you recognise a lot of the time when people start healing or hitting the goals and stuff, they're like, I don't know why, but I don't want to be around the same people anymore. I feel like I've outgrown my friends. I don't want to even see them anymore. And it's not because those friends have done anything wrong.
No.
But a lot of the time it's like we either grow together or we grow apart. If people aren't expanding and we're growing, healing, and our beliefs about ourselves are changing, we're going to seek new experiences, people, life events and circumstances that reflect back that newfound belief about who we are. So the more healing work we do, the more we find those people in our lives that are really that, I keep saying mortar to the bricks, the people that help us through.
I've got another analogy that's coming in my head.
I just love a good analogy.
Come on, right.
Hit me with it, Matt.
Imagine an artist with his palette,
Yeah.
and he's got 5 colours, and those colours represent the different people in your life.
Yeah.
Those people like your family, people like your best friends, we grow up thinking that we can talk to them about anything, and they will be ultimately the best person to guide us. But we know that's not true. Some people will be good to talk about some things, some people will be better at listening than others. That's nothing against them. But when you start looking in other places, I've had some of the most nourishing conversations with almost strangers that have just wanted to take the time to listen. And you almost end up with not 5 colours, but 20 shades of those 5 colours.
Yeah.
And they've all got a place. And, it doesn't help when sometimes family will go, why didn't you talk to me? I chose to talk to this person.
Yeah.
That's not against you. I just chose. I owned that. Because if you want to paint a postbox red, you don't use green.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's about sort of coming to those people that we know we can trust, and that we're not going to be judged by. Brené Brown, I'm just spouting all these amazing
it's
authors.
fine. People will be Googling.
Hopefully people will Google these authors,
absolutely.
because these books that these people have written are just off the scale.
Yeah.
Brené Brown says the one thing that melts shame, she's a shame researcher by trade, she teaches a lot about shame, and she said, what keeps shame going is silence and secrecy.
Yeah.
Shame cannot survive in the presence of empathy. Shame cannot survive when it's heard and understood. So we have to be very careful with the people that we do choose to go to with our stuff.
Yeah.
We want to express ourselves. Yes, we want to release everything that's going on for us, all the beliefs, that we're carrying that are causing us suffering, the things that are going on in our lives, the feelings that we're encountering. We want to express those because it's like, the pipe will burst if we don't turn on that tap. But we do want to be careful about who we share them with.
Yeah.
We don't just want to blurt it out to everyone because some people might feed that pain. Some people might join in and go, yeah, that is awful. Some of my best friends in my life are the people that I can go to that I know when I'm triggered and I say, can you hold space, please? And I blurt out, I'm triggered by this, and this, and then that person did this, da-da-da-da-da. And I know they're going to turn to me and go, Miranda, what's firing off in you? Take everyone else out of it. They're not going to go, oh, did they do that? That is awful. Yeah. I can't believe that's happened to you. That is awful. I don't want that when I'm triggered anymore. And I used to want that. I used to want someone to bitch about what's going on in my life. And that is terrible. Yeah. And encourage me to complain. But luckily now I choose where I take my triggers to people that I know are going to go, I hear that, Mike, that sounds really hard. What would help? People that are going to be very conscious with me. I need that. It helps me grow. Yeah. Going to someone who's going to encourage my more pain is not helping me grow. And that's why we do need different people in our lives. And this is why it's very unhealthy. Like the interpersonal relationship, the intimate relationship. The Course in Miracles call it the special relationship, the partner. The partnership relationship. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that person has to meet all their needs.
Yes.
You need to be open with your feelings and you need to give me space. You need to be able to comfort me and you need to be able to make me laugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's too much.
My one and only.
One and only. My other half. No, you are your other half. You are whole already and you come together as two whole people and you witness each other's strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. And, that your partner's not always going to be the best person to reach out to. And they don't have to be. We don't want to give a big heavy cross to bear to our partners.
No.
So I love that idea, what you're saying about this palette that we create in our lives of many different people, a community around us. And by community, it could be two people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have to have big, massive groups of friends. No. And as I've healed, as I've grown, 100% my circle is narrowing in a beautiful way. in a beautiful way. I used to be like, oh, wow, loads of people in my life and, this is... and socialising all the time and all this. And as I heal more and more, that circle's narrowing. And those connections that hold very, very dear with the people that are growing with me, those connections are deepening to new levels where I wouldn't have if I diluted it all over. Yeah. And sometimes that happens. And people will often say, oh my God, I don't want to be around anyone anymore. And I'm just feeling, this healing journey is so lonely. And it's like, can you reframe that and see it as a beautiful thing that actually you're coming to more focus. You're coming to a place where you're choosing differently.
Yeah.
And, we have to learn to be able to be comfortable in our own, presence sometimes. Yeah. And it's not always easy.
No, it's not. I wonder... Seeing as though you're a lady that likes to do a lot of things, what exciting things are coming up for you in the next few months?
Lots of exciting things. Great. So, this podcast really excites me. I just love doing stuff like this, Brilliant. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me. So there's a lot of exciting public speaking stuff coming up. Yeah. Also, I shared with you before, I got news as well that I'm going to be presenting 3 BBC radio shows in September.
That's incredible.
That's on the 16th, 23rd and 30th of September. Yeah. 6 till 8 p.m. on the Saturday night on BBC Radio Leeds. So that's really, really exciting for me, just presenting mainstream shows, because I did a one-off mental health special in May. Yeah. And it's just led to this extra bits of radio presenting. And I am just obsessed with the radio. Since I was a little girl, I've been obsessed with... I used to pretend I was a radio host when I was a little girl, so it's just such a dream come true for me. So I'm really, really excited about that. Also, the Heroes programme is rolling out further, reaching more people who are suffering. I'm going to be training more staff with that and trying to train people in a trauma-informed approach and lots of exciting stuff. And the most exciting thing of all, though, is expansion, growth, healing, me learning to deal with my own triggers more and more that come up every week.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to lie to anyone. I'm not ever going to sit here and say I'm healed. I know what to do. I don't always do it.
Exactly. just to
know.
normalise all this high-level conversation we've been having, we're both a bit crazy. Normal people.
I'm off the rocker. Absolutely off the rocker. You know, we know the stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
We know all the theory. In those moments of trigger, I know exactly on paper what's going to bring me peace. Do I choose to always follow it? Or does my inner child become at the steering wheel that's scared of being abandoned and unloved and doesn't feel lovable? Does she take over? Sometimes she does. And it's for me to bring her close.
Yes.
And go, okay, come on, it's just another layer, babe. God, I'm knackered, babe, you know.
It's almost as if we're taking the salad and having the pizza.
Exactly. Oh,
for that moment.
Every night. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, so we're human beings at the end of the day, but this journey is fun.
Yes.
The healing journey is fun, you know.
Tough, but rewarding.
Tough and
Extremely rewarding.
Yeah. Expand. We're all here to expand.
Yeah.
We're only going to do it if we let go of our baggage, if we let go of the fear, if we let go of our pain.
Yeah, I love that. If anyone wants to find out anything more or follow your stuff, what's the best place? This is the time to plug Instagrams or whatever you like people follow on.
Lovely, yeah, you can follow me on all the socials. I'm on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even Threads, but I'm not.
I'm not.
Is it even called Threads? Yeah, I don't know. But I'm at Miranda Arieh on all of those. So it's MIRANDA ARIEH.
Which I will put in the description as well.
Beautiful,
so it's spelled right.
So yeah, link in with me. And my inbox is always open. It sometimes takes me a while to respond, but yeah, I for the moment, like my inbox is always open if someone's suffering and you want to whip me across a maximum 1 minute voice note. I do always respond to people. If you're
12-minute voice notes.
Please,
so hard to respond.
No more of them. You know, when people just send like 12 1-minute Instagram notes. But yeah, my inbox is open if anyone is suffering and you want a little bit of guidance.
Wonderful. I do have a completely left field question for you though, which I do enjoy really asking my guests. Now, I love superheroes. This is the Superhero Finder. So I want to ask you, if you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Superhero power.
And you can make it up. It doesn't have to be laser eyes or flying or anything.
Power of presence. I pray for presence above all else in this life. If people ask me what my goal is in this life, presence. I just want to be able to be in the present moment at all times, able to come to the present moment, which would mean that I release fear, because what is to fear in the present moment unless there's like a bear coming at me? But I live in Leeds, so it's fine.
That's fine. There's not many bears in Leeds. But
the power of presence, that's what I would have. That would be my superpower, to always be present, be able to be mindful with everything I do, or mindless. You know, that would be. Oh yeah, pray for that. Come on. Thank you, universe. Yeah, you know, honestly, that is it. That's all I really. It's my biggest goal in this life.
Yeah.
Biggest goal in this life, for me to be able to maintain inner peace. You know, that's what I want above all else.
That's beautiful. Almost, I'm picturing Captain Now or Captain Presence.
Oh hell yeah! Eckhart Tolle in a cape and a crown
with that beautiful accent he's got.
God, I love him. God, I love a bit of Eckhart Tolle. Get him on YouTube, guys, if you haven't heard of him.
No, fantastic. Absolutely. And I'll put some of the links to some of the people like Brené Brown and Deepak Chopra as well, because there's some fantastic work going out on there. Miranda, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, Matt. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Guys, I want to make a special mention. Thank you for listening, first off. Second, this episode, I'm so proud to be sponsored by Gym Book Athletics, who I will tag below. James was sending me a Gym Book t-shirt, which I was going to wear, but it didn't arrive, so we can blame the couriers for that one. But thank you very much to him for supporting. James was on last week's podcast as well. And also, I would like to say thank you to my Patreon subscribers as well. Without you guys, and without you, James, at Gym Book, we wouldn't be able to be here today. So sincere thank you to everyone that's involved in that. And you for listening as well. So please feel free to share, tag your friends in it. And the final 2 words I like to say on the end of each episode is just stay super.